The George Washington Bridge crosses the Hudson River, connecting New York and New Jersey. The building of the bridge began in 1927, and it was opened to traffic 4 years later in 1931. The bridge is about 200 feet above the surface of the river, and it's 4,760 feet across. When the George Washington Bridge was opened in 1931, it had the longest bridge span in the world, and it continues to be the busiest bridge in the world. So many times as I've crossed the bridge and tried to picture what that spot looked like before they built it, I've thought about the engineers who looked at those hills that rise high above the Hudson River, and I've wondered, what made them think they could make that work? Nothing like that had ever been done before. What made them look at that huge high gap and say, hey, we can put a bridge there? Their vision fascinates me. I ask that same question when I think of David in the valley of Elah, with the Philistine army high on one hillside, the army of Israel high on the other, and a veteran warrior twice his size, fully armed, right in front of him, cursing David and screaming furiously, "Do you think I'm a dog? You came out here to throw sticks for me? I'm going to feed you to the birds, you little punk." What made the teenager David look at that giant and say, you know what? I can kill him. What made him think he could do it? Let's move back one scene and see if we can find the answer there. David is appearing before King Saul. This giant had been out there 40 days in a row, threatening and cursing King Saul and his army, and demanding that Israel send out a man to fight him one-on-one. Saul was scared to death. He didn't know what he was going to do. Somebody comes into Saul's field headquarters and says, "King Saul, there's a young man out among our troops claiming that he's willing to fight the giant." Saul says, "Bring him in." David stands before Saul and says, "Don't be bothered by this giant. I'll take care of him for you." King Saul says, "You're just a kid. What makes you think you can beat him?" David told him, "King, this guy has mocked the armies of the God of Israel. My God has always given me the victory before in my battles, and he'll give me the victory again." Incredibly, the king of Israel tells David, "Okay, go ahead and fight him, and God be with you." This teenager had an unheard of faith in God. But where did he get it? Let's move back one more scene and see if we can find out. David was at home in Bethlehem with his dad Jesse, while his 3 oldest brothers were in the army, fighting for Israel. His father said, "Son, I've packed some food for your brothers in the king's army. I need you to deliver it." David said, "Yes, sir," and he set off on his 15-mile trip to the hillside overlooking the valley of Elah. He found his brothers, and while they were getting caught up, down in the valley below, Goliath began his daily rant. This teenager David looked down at the giant and said, "Who does that guy think he is, mocking God like that?" Some of the soldiers answered, "That's the champion of the Philistines. He keeps daring us to send out our champion." And David asked, "So where is our champion?" And they just hung their heads. "We don't have one." David shouted, "I'll go down there and kill that punk." Where in the world did this kid get that kind of courage? We'll find the answer by looking backward just one more time. David's dad had put David in charge of taking care of the sheep. Alone in the hills of Bethlehem, David spent every day and every night feeding, watering, and protecting his father's flock, and getting to know the Lord for himself. One day out there in the wilderness, a lion suddenly came prowling out from behind the brush, snatched up a lamb from the flock, and ran off with it in his mouth. David instinctively jumped to his feet, crying, "Lord, you're going to have to help me," and he chased the lion down. He pried the lion's mouth open and set the lamb free. David wrestled and fought with the lion, and when it was all over, David had killed the lion. As David walked back to the flock carrying the lamb, he said, "Lord, you heard my prayer. You helped me save that lamb, and you saved my life. Thank you, Lord." You know, if it had been me, I think I might have been content to report back to my dad and say, Well, Dad, we're short one lamb, but at least I'm alive. I could have been killed. But not David. His immediate thought was, I've got a job to do, and the Lord's going to help me do it. Incredibly, on a different day, the very same thing happened with a bear. And in exactly the same way, God enabled David to kill the bear. He knew it was God who had defeated the lion, and it was God who had defeated the bear. So when the giant threatened his whole country, why should that be any different? David learned his faith in God by trusting God to help him do his job. Christian, you can trust your God to fight your battles with you. Stay the course.